But also Adi Shakti, through her Mahasaraswati power, has created the 5 elements. Before everything else, she created a Tanmatra, as you call it. I mean, if I go into details, it's going to be too much for you. But first of all, the causal essences were created by her. But if I say like this, there won't be anything false. If I say that just by seeing, by her sight, by her drishti, she has created this light. Just by her breathing, she has created air. Because her desire is the last one. Because she desired there should be air, she created air. Like that, her smell has created the causal gandha, which has created this Mother Earth. And it has started from her only, from her desires. By her desiring it, it was created for her. And that's how it was created in the whole universe, which was later on made into earth, moon, sun, and all this. Actually, it was her mere desire which brought forth these things. For us, it is impossible to understand someone like that, who just by mere desire can create. But when we think of somebody who is above all the powers of the world, the one who is the highest of all, she can do anything she feels like. Can't we think like that? We cannot think of someone like that. We think of God, who is almighty, we call him. But when we talk of his mights, we start laughing. How can? She can do anything she wants. It is only her mere desire that has brought forth all these creations. And all these things that you see in this world are created only by her desire. She created Akasha. She created all these 5 elements which you know. And then she started her another form, which we call as the Mahalakshmi form. Before that, I think I should tell you about Sri Ganesha's existence in the matter. He acts in the matter as vibrations, as Mahasaraswati vibrations. They are electromagnetic vibrations. Mahasaraswati vibrations are electromagnetic vibrations. We can say that electromagnetic, and also there is sound, and all these 5 elements are expressed in that. You can record them, because if you take a sulfur dioxide, for example, a sulfur dioxide, and 2 oxygen and 1 sulfur, and if you wash them properly under a very highly you can try, I mean, I don't know if people have tried it, but you can try and find out, and put it under a very highly developed microwave microscope, you can say. You can see that the oxygen things and sulfur is stationary, but these 2 are vibrating. There's a vibration going between these bonds. They can be isometric also, they can be symmetric, they can be even, uneven, and they can be expanding and closing like that. So there are 3 types of vibrations we find, and the 4th side is nothing but Sri Ganesha himself, who is controlling. So this we can see with our naked eyes, if you want to see, even if you are realized or not. From where does these vibrations come? In the minutest paramanu, as you call the molecules. In a molecule, how do you get these vibrations? Can you explain this? It is so much. Sukshmatara sukshma. The powers of Ganesha are very, very subtle, and they enter into the matter and create this kind of vibrations, which you can even see and record, electromagnetic vibrations in even a one small little molecule. So we have in these, as I told you, into the periodic level, periodic laws of elements, you can find out that all the elements are divided into 8 types. Just see, how can all the elements be divided into 8 parts without somebody being there? Can you do something without organizing a proper chart of these elements? Just think about it. You see, when we challenge God, we have to understand that in this world, everything is so well organized. There are 8 elements spread out so well, placed so well, and it has a particular style of behavior. And every element is different in numbers and protons, and these numbers are very well calculated in such a manner that the end of this, that the last circle, that the last circle of all the protons should be 8. If it is not 8, if it is less than 8, then it creates a valency problem. It is so well organized that even you study this, if there is anybody who knows a little bit of chemistry, you know. So if you know chemistry, it's such a wonderful thing. We take it for granted. We think it is our right to have the matter so well organized for us. But the valencies are all depending on such a nice organization of these 8 protons at the outer thing. This is all done through the Mahasaraswati power. But the vibrating force, now see, there is a vibrating force. This is all done through the, as I told you, through the Mahasaraswati power she creates. Now the vibrating force keeps it existing. Matter also exists. It must exist. If it does not exist, nothing can exist. So the existence force is given through the Mahalakshmi force, Mahakali force, which is acting through Shri Ganesh, who is sitting at the nucleus. He is sitting at the nucleus of every. Can you imagine how much it must be? Every molecule and every atom. You cannot understand the finiteness of it. Now see, say take one element like gold. How many molecules it has? Can you calculate? Beyond us. How many, yes, you can say atoms it has. You just cannot calculate. And then how many Ganesha's pictures must be there? This is how is it achieved. Is another thing which I will tell you if I come in the way. Like how infinite reflections are got into, and why there are 2 things like Shiva and Adi Shakti. The reason is it has to create an infinite reflection. How do you create an infinite reflection? Do you know that? Anybody who knows physics? If you place in the center of 2 mirrors something, then the reflections are infinite. So the first mirror is the Adi Shakti and the second mirror is this creation. And that's how you can get infinite reflections on this earth. This is the reason why you can get infinite reflections. And that's why you had to create another one who reflects it. And that's why there have to be 3 identities. One, the God Almighty, then Adi Shakti, and then the whole universe. It had to be that way, otherwise you cannot create infinite reflections. Now somebody who has done this job must be a very clever man, no doubt. When human beings think that they can know God through their buddhi, they must know how can you reach this buddhi, this supreme. How much labor he has taken to create us. After creating the matter, then he, or I should say his power, as Mahalakshmi descends on this earth. Mahalakshmi helps in sustenance. Sustenance means all the scanning of all these elements. when they create the matter is differently created for different purpose. Now, what is the ultimate? The creation has its ultimate aim is to create human beings, this creation. Just imagine. You people are so great that for you all these troubles have been taken. Such an important thing is a human being that all these troubles are taking, all matter, all everything is used just to create you. This is the ultimate aim. Sort of a stage has to be laid down and you come, the Sahaj Yogis come on the scene, you can say. Just the instrument of man is to be created. Now why God wanted to create an instrument of man? Because He wanted to create an instrument which could feel Him, which could understand Him, which could emit Him, like Krishna creating his Murli. He just wanted to play through our instruments His power. But He didn't want to do it through the dead instruments like these, but through the living instruments. Supposing if this can understand, can love, has a human mind, and if my voice is passing through it like a hollow personality, then we can say that this is a realized personality. But this is not a living being. You are a living being. You are made specially with all these difficulties for millions of years have been worked out so carefully, so delicately, one after another. We have to now jump to the evolution part because you see it's a very long thing. So now we have to come to the most important part, which is evolution, which we should understand because we know evolution through science. When these three forces came into being, before creating any earth or before creating this universe or anything, first they had to draw out a proper picture about it and a proper understanding of it. You see, as before doing anything, say we have to plan out things, we have a planning commission. First of all, we sit down with the planning commission. In the same way, first they had to form a stage where they just plan out the things. This stage we can call it as the Vaikuntha state. Because this is not the earliest state. This is created later on. First, the planning state is known as the Vaikuntha state. At this stage, they created all the incarnations. Incarnations were not created after the earth has been created, which is a very wrong idea. They created all the incarnations at the Vaikuntha state, where you and I never existed at that time. This earth never existed. And nothing existed that you see with your naked eyes now. But a state of existence, the first one known as the Vaikuntha state existed. In that Vaikuntha state, the planning of the whole universe and the whole cosmos and all that was decided. So the first person who had to come on this was Shiva, because without him nothing can exist. But where to settle him down? Because he is to be reflected onto something. If Shiva has to be reflected onto someone, you have to create a reflector. So they had to first think of the one primordial being or one huge identity, you can call it, known as Virat. they created Virata. This will be the Virata. This will be the complete form of the primordial being. This is the one I am telling you about, this reflector, the first one. The God Almighty has to be reflected. So first let us create first of all the primordial being, the Virat. In the Virat, they created different incarnations. Incarnations are not created from human beings. I don't know why people think like that. They cannot be created by human beings. But they were first created. You see, evolution is all right from amoeba to human beings. But there is no evolution for incarnations. They are made like that from the very beginning. The complicated. As you have seen in the Virat, I have shown you the picture of the Virat. The three powers of Mahakali, Mahalakshmi and Mahasaraswati met at the Agya Chakra. And there they produced 2 children each. It's not a story, it's a fact. Again, as brothers and sisters. And these brothers and sisters means the relationship is of a temporary nature but of a subtler temperament. And then they were married, intercommunication took place. Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati and Mahakali created altogether 6 children who were married. Intermarriage took place. By that intermarriage, they got an entity which was a male kinetic personality and a potential energy with it. Such a combination. And they placed those incarnations on different chakras. They brought from the top, all of them were brought from the Agya downward and placed all the chakras. These incarnations, as you know, are placed on different chakras of the Virata. Many people won't understand this and won't like to hear this also, because human beings are so egoistical that they cannot understand that there is, if a God who is almighty, who is going to do everything, he has his own ways of doing it. Now, whether I am telling the truth or not, you can verify it with vibrations. You can see for yourself how incarnations were created. And all these incarnations were placed in the Virata state. Here, to create the reflection on the other side, Shiva was removed from the Shakti as it was removed in the beginning. And it was placed on top of the Virata's head as the Sadashiva's Pitha. In the same way, we too have a Sadashiva's Pitha on our head. You see, we are the reflection of the reflector. So we too have the same style. We too have a Sadashiva Pitha on our head. He is also placed here only. But when the Kundalini enters into the being, when he is in the womb of the mother, that time this Sadashiva Pitha, or we can say Sadashiva from this Pitha, descends into the heart. And that's how you hear the first throb in the heart. It is just the same as it happened in the Virata. But at the Vaikuntha stage, this was not created. The second reflector was not created. Only the first one. So only the Virata was created, and in his being in the planning stage, first of all, these officers, you can say, in charge of these chakras were created by Adishakti. God is the witness, and she is doing the play, and she creates those chakras. In the chakras, she places all these deities to govern. Now, there is the existence, there is the creative force, and there is the evolutionary force, all inside the Virata state. Now, this is at the Vaikuntha state, we say, because this state is on this first reflection. It is not in us, or we cannot feel it, the Vaikuntha state, because it is in the first. Then another state was created, then third was created, then the fourth one is the Bhavasagara, is the state at which all of us were born. First, in the fourth state, now can you think of a 4-strata personality which is facing a mirror. Now, which is the first one shows is the topmost. And that's why the topmost shows is the Bhavasagara. But if you can go deep down into your state, you can feel all the other three. But first of all, the one which you can see and feel it is the Bhavasagara. So you are born in the Bhavasagara. At this state, you are at the Bhavasagara state. At this Bhavasagara state, now you are created and you have to evolve. At this time, the Mahalakshmi power acts to evolve you. You already know how evolutionary things have taken place. But I will tell you how evolution has taken place according to our Puranas, and which is a fact. The evolution of man started first from the amoeba, you can say, because the life came into being into water. As I told you, first the water was created. In the water, the amino acids were formed, amoeba were formed, fishes were formed. And fishes, when they were formed, they found, the smaller fishes found it difficult to exist because of the bigger fishes were trying to eat it. It comes as a reciprocal thing. They were absolutely fed up of this destruction that was going on. At this time, Sri Vishnu himself, the one who is the evolutionary force, descended on this earth as the Matsyavatara. He helped some of the fishes to cross across the shores. By crossing across, they had that courage. She was the leader. And then others started crossing across. This was the first evolutionary stage which we know. These fishes became reptiles later on, as you know, in the evolutionary stages that they became reptiles. But how did they become reptiles? There must be someone who must have given them the lead. It was again Sri Vishnu, who came on this earth as a Kurma. And lots of things were done at this time in the Vaikuntha stage. Before he came on this earth as a Kurma Avatara, at the Vaikuntha stage, when they created this earth, they planned this whole Virata and wanted to create on this side of the reflector, the whole planning and the whole thinking and all that process brought forth some sort of a waste matter. It brought forth the waste matter. This waste matter got contaminated, or you can say got stagnated onto one side, which was neglected somehow. And through it started coming out some satanic forces. And there was a big fight between the satanic forces and the good forces. It actually happened in the third stage, not at the Vaikuntha stage, but at the third stage. Because when the planning started, the working out started, these satanic forces started working out. Now people may say, why God created satanic forces? He did not. But eventually they turned out to be. Because at the second stage, when some of the devas who were created, again they were not evolved people, they were created devas in charge of all these elements and all the working. You see, you have to create also offices for people who have to go in the field and work out. All these devas and devtas, out of their working, what happened? That they got lost, some of them, and became satanic forces. Sort of a waste product came in. And with that waste product, satanic forces started. And they acted in such a way that there was a war during the Kurmavatara between Rakshasas and the Suras, as they call it. So the good people who were in charge of the elements, all the working in the office of God, started fighting with the satanic forces. At that time, he himself worked out this, and you know what happened in the Amrut Manthan which took place. And this is, people don't understand how can Amrut Manthan take place in the Bhavasagar. It did not. It took place at a stage which is not Bhavasagar. At the Bhavasagara, it did not take place. Now we are at the Bhavasagara state. At the Bhavasagara state, the same Kurma, the same one took birth and came on this earth and gave us a understanding how to become a proper reptile. Like that we grew up. So the whole thing will take too much time. I will not go into that. But ultimately a human being was created. All this is done by Mahalakshmi power, which has acted through Vishnu, which I have told you how the evolution has taken place, how you are made. Now what is going to happen? You reach this point, up to this point, till Christ came in. Christ was also an incarnation, and his mother was nobody else but Radhaji herself, the Mahalakshmi. And they brought forth up to this stage the human beings. After this, now what man has to become is to enter into a state where he becomes nirvichar. Means there is no more the consciousness of the Bhavasagara, but you go little beyond it. From this stage, you dive into a state of universal unconscious, as they call it. Is nothing but the same power which exists here, which is a synthesis of all the three powers. Is the synthesis of all the three powers. That is the Adi Shakti's power. Adi Shakti's power is all pervading, exists everywhere, but we never feel it otherwise. Why? Because we are very grossly placed. We can say that a tube which has got, say, 4 layers, out of which it can only use the outer tube, because the inner tubes are all closed. When the innermost tube is opened out, you become absolutely self-realized. But when even the second tube is opened out, you can feel the all-pervading force of God Almighty, which is, we call it as Sarvavyapi Achetan. But it is no more Achetan for you because you are conscious of it. That is how you start your dialogue with God. What happens is that here, the reflection here, the reflector, the reflected world, from here you ascend into this part. You ascend onto this part. You do not become this, but you ascend into this area. From here you ascend into this area, and this area is filled with the all-pervading power of Adi Shakti. Till you reach to this stage, you have to go up to the stage of an incarnation, which of course is a big gap, but I can say that Mahavira and Buddha, both of them rose to that height. But look at their disciples. For example, Buddha's disciples. They have decried Shiva, they have decried all the gods and goddesses. I mean, as if they did not know much about it. And the way they have shown in certain statues that a goddess is standing on top of a Shiva and a Parvati and is trying to kill, she's hitting Ganesha, and this is something so nonsensical. I mean, they completely kill the image of one united force acting the whole thing in one united ideas with one united mind. Only whenever they have not united, they became Rakshasas and formed a satanic force. As I told you, it's a very, very difficult subject, and I've tried to handle it in English, is even worse. So I've tried my level best to do it. But still, if you have any questions, anything, you can ask me sometime. You can write to me. We can find it out. Tomorrow, now this is the only thing is I wanted to tell you about is that now you have got thoughtless awareness, no doubt. Most of you have got thoughtless awareness, you have got vibrations, but you have to jump into Nirvikalpa. Nirvikalpa. And that you have to jump through deep meditation and through deep exposure. Otherwise, you see, it is no use only having this little stage of Nirvichara. You have to jump into Nirvikalpa. That is a stage, little, as I told you here, that a little ahead of this reflector you have moved. But still you are going up and down, so many of you. This is a state known as Satori in the Zen system of religion. They call it as Satori, where you see person is going up and down, is catching, doing this, that. This stage has to be overcome. Then you go to the Nirvikalpa state. At the end of the Nirvikalpa state, you just don't catch much. You are not bothered. So far, I haven't met any human being like that. You see, I have seen very great saints and realized people, and I can say that they are definitely self-realized. They are even controlling nature. Some of them do, but still they catch on their chakras. Is something surprising. But see, human beings are like that. They go on catching, and again, perhaps they jump into the third stage of self-realization completely, but they are again in a Satori state and they come back and go back and like that, maybe. But I have seen that so far I have not met one human being whom I will say is fully self-realized, who doesn't catch. Except for me, I find everybody is catching. It's most surprising. But when you don't catch, what happens? When you don't catch. Actually, this is a state rather difficult to achieve. But if you don't catch, if you think you don't catch, how you should do it is to see this way, that if supposing you are catching Agya, maybe you must know that when you are catching your Agya, you should not think you are catching your Agya, but you should think that you are gathering a force here to combat the another person. If you can do like that, supposing you are catching on a Vishuddhi chakra, instead of thinking that you are catching on Vishuddhi chakra and getting upset about it, if you start thinking that this is a force you are accumulating just to counterbalance his Vishuddhi chakra, then I think it will work out better. That's why I always say that extend your hands to others and see for yourself. This has helped many people, because if they catch an Agya and if they give vibrations to somebody who is Agya caught, they find they are released. Such things are happening to very few, but it's happening. So this is what you can try. That don't think you are catching, but you should think a force has been accumulated to expel the Agya of another person who is facing. In the beginning, of course, it's a very, very slow process, but gradually you can do it. And only people who start giving others. This is a collective thinking. That supposing now you can say like that if supposing there is a malaria attack on me, then my own blood cells are trying to combat it, and they are combating it. You see, if I give in, then I become malarious. But if I do not give in, I become victorious. In the same way, if you could think this way while giving vibrations, that if you catch, it is actually a force being accumulated into you, and then you have to give it, then you are going to be much faster than all the munis put together, I can tell you. But that thinking is rather difficult for human beings, because once they catch it, they get little worried. I'm catching, they start taking out their own. If you don't take out your own and go all out to give it to others, it will work out better. And this has been, I have experimented with one or two people, I'm saying, and it has worked. Everybody does not have that capacity. So gradually you rise, because you are just now newly born. You are still still to grow. You have to grow more. You might be learning, you might be knowing a lot. That doesn't mean. As far as the spirituality is concerned, you have just come out of your Satori state, some of you, and some of you are still in the Satori state. So be careful about it. I would like to meet you again, perhaps after 2 years, I don't know when. Tomorrow we are having a meditation here. That I won't speak much. Tomorrow we'll have meditation. But we have a meditation center here where you should go and meet. When you meet in a group, when it is a samuhik, is a group activity, I will be there. You will be surprised that my vibrations cannot be felt anywhere so much as they can be felt in a group about which I know that such group is working here. So, may God bless you.